CineLifters has been really valuable for bringing FPV to market in the commercial industry. Flying higher quality cameras like this instead of GoPros has a lot of value to people that want to film movies. They want to see a camera match up with the color profiles of their bigger Reds and Aries and film cameras. One of the problems that remains to be solved in the FPV CineLifter market is a good safe drone around people or indoors. And for us, traditionally with GoPros, we'd use a CineWhoop, like a Shendrone Squirt, but that's not an option for carrying big cameras like this. Now, this isn't that big of a camera. This is the Panasonic BGH1, but you can kind of get an idea of the scale that you're going for. Andy Shen came up with these ducts, which are installed on our Shendrone's thick, all of which is carrying our Panasonic BGH1. Why would you want a ducted CineLifter? Well, there's a ton of different reasons that I think would make it valuable to have the ability to carry this camera indoors or around people. Obviously, there's still an element of danger here, but it's much harder to get damaged by props from the outside of these ducts as opposed to just 7 inches of fury spinning around like a ninja star in a china shop. I don't know, the analogy failed, but you know exactly what I mean. In addition to safety, you can then more confidently fly this through trees, for example. You'll bump some branches out of the way instead of just have them get tangled up in the props. Or you might be flying, for example, around really expensive cars where bumping off of them with this would be a little bit better. You still don't want to hit anything than chopping them up with 7-inch blades. So to that end, we are testing out 5-inch props on this Shendrone's thick inside of ducts. And what better of a place than out here in the woods where there's tons of little scraggle branches. We're going to fly this around, try to find as many different gaps as we possibly can to practice that CineWhoop footage and see what it looks like out of the camera. You'll notice that I'm not using any kind of stabilization for this on purpose. This is the Panasonic BGH1. It's my favorite CineLifter camera right now because it's about a fourth the cost of a Red Komodo, and it weighs like half as much. Unfortunately, I was kind of dumb and I have a battery installed on it, and this battery weighs pretty much as the rest of the camera, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to shoot this in 4K with like the really advanced color profiles. It may not look that much better than a GoPro today because we don't really have very good light or any color going on, so you'll be able to see dynamic range, that sort of stuff, but you'll have to use your imagination to understand why this could be super valuable even when we get crappy conditions like this. Hey, we're just making YouTube videos, okay? The biggest drawback, and you're going to see it as soon as we fire up this quad, is that it is extremely loud. I can't describe, it makes your ears hurt. It's not just like, oh, that's loud, haha. It your ears just feel like they're gonna implode as the drone flies by you. So anyone that would be working on set with this, I would probably have to recommend that they be wearing earplugs because it is that loud. I'm hoping that eventually we can find a way to solve that noise issue, but for now it's just something we have to deal with. Really quickly, my Shendrone's thick build overview. These are Brother Hobby Avenger 2806 1300 kV motors. They're running 5-inch quad blades on top and then 5.2-inch 7-inch props cut down to that size on the bottom for ducted X8 of a machine. These are 40 amp SpeedX Slim ESCs that have this awesome LED built into them. So I've kind of got the cool green in the front, red in the back. I think that looks pretty good. And then we use a DJI Air unit as well as a Lumineer Lux F7 down on the inside. On the bottom, you got a PowerDrone 3300 milliamp hour battery. And altogether, this is pretty capable of carrying a payload of about 2 kilograms. Right now we're loaded up with about 1, so it's a little bit underweight, which is nice. This thing is just an absolute beast of a machine. Thanks to Aurora for keeping my hands warm today. So we're setting up the final shot of the day with the ducted thick. And in order to, because this doesn't have a screen at all, I got to plug in an external screen. I just got one on a little stretchy cable here with a battery. So I can come in and I can adjust the aperture and focus to make sure that I've got everything in frame that I want to have in frame. And that's just how I prepare for each flight, is to plug the monitor in, check the camera, make sure that the right level of light is getting in, so that when we get in the air, it looks spicy. So I'm gonna make it a little bit extra bright. The red is what's in focus, which is pretty much everything at this point because of how wide open we are. I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. And then I'm also, you can see the value of the brightness here is like about a 2/3 of a stop over. So it's a little bit too bright, but that's okay because we can see the sky right now and we're gonna be flying down in the woods. So I think we want it to be maybe one stop over. And then once we get down into the woods, everything will still be looking good. So I think that's set to where we want it to be. Now let's get it in the air. You're hearing the audio from the camera that's near our bodies, and the drone is actually like a football field away through a bunch of trees, and you can still hear it loud as day. I mean, that's just how loud that thing is. So all in all, I'm actually really impressed with how this thing is flying, especially with this giant chungus of a battery. I mean, this thing, here, Winston, feel that. How heavy it is. Yeah, no, isn't that surprising? Yeah. So, I mean, it flew awesome. We were able to get some great shots with it, some chase footage. I'm glad actually that it's dark right now because this can do much better of a low light performance than the actual GoPro can. I didn't have to do any ISO or anything. I just opened the lens up a little bit and I was able to let in a lot more light. It flew admirably for, I mean, what it is. It's a pretty big thing, but so I'm excited to go take a deeper look at the footage. And in fact, we're going to be passing off a bunch of our footage to the guys that are running gyro flow. A lot of you guys are down in the comments saying, oh, you should try out the new stabilization technique and all that stuff. We hear you. We've been talking to them. We kind of started down some process. I got distracted by having a baby and all that stuff, but we're definitely in progress with that. So be tuned in, be looking forward to our response to the gyro flow situation and using cine cameras like this with some real steady-like stabilization for post. Really excited about that.
One unintended side effect of having ended up shooting so late into the evening was that we ended up having some really dark footage. We lost all of our light, and you can kind of see the difference in the power of big cameras like the BGH1, because look at the crazy side-by-side between what the GoPro was, what the BGH was, and then flip it over and push the colors and push the exposure to try to get some of that information back from it being so dark. And you can see that it's completely out of the GoPro's league, the footage of the BGH1. It's night and day how much you're able to push the color and the light that you see out of that camera. I think that's just an interesting thing to bring up, and that's one of the reasons why we would want to be able to start pushing towards these Cine lifter type drones instead of just GoPros, because of the ability to handle unfortunate situations like this one.
In the meantime, hope that you had a good explanation of why you would want ducted Cine lifting quads. I hope that you learned a lot about what these things can do, and I hope that you stay flying.